Hello YouTube, it's Sign here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we are doing another episode of What Talk. Today we're going to be looking at episode 6, The Flame of Valon. Um, this is kind of where it starts going downhill for me. I think this is the first episode where I was interested, but I wasn't exactly sure that I liked where this was going. It's kind of like the calm before the storm in terms of like the plot line. This is the moment right before we get to the kind of emotional climax of the story. However, it focuses on the wrong people in my opinion. It does definitely develop stuff for later in the series, but it doesn't feel like it develops the current storyline all that much to me. And I think that it focuses on characters that are important, but maybe shouldn't have been like explained all that much right now, because I don't know. I think it's just the problem with the medium more than it is the problem of what was shown to me. So I'll kind of explain that. But we start here with a scene on a river. It's supposed to be kind of like Tyr, I think. It's a small girl and her father, and this happens to be Swan Sanche's story. Now in the books, we basically just get like a page explaining it. However, here, because it has to be a whole visual sequence, it kind of takes a while. It's like about 4 to 5 minutes of, Swan Sanche's life as a girl. And it ends pretty emotionally. She has to leave her father in order to go to Valon so that she can be with people like her, which I think was pretty good. And it kind of does tie in with something that happens previously, I think. It's whenever Moiraine talks to Nynaeve about how the one power changes your relationship with people. This is highlighted again. So the Aes Sedai are definitely main characters of this story. However, I don't feel that it's that meaningful because it's kind of like deviating away from the characters that we care about, which is the Emond's Fielders. So I don't know. Personally, I think it was interesting to see this, and my parents and my sister thought it was pretty cool. However, I feel like it's spending too much time away from the people that it needs to spend time on. So, eventually we get to see the Amyrlin seat sit down on the council chamber where all of the Ajahs are represented. Each Ajah gets a pew, I guess. It's like a place where they can sit, and they get 3 representatives. Then Moiraine, Liandrin, and Alana are standing in front of the Amyrlin seat, or mother, however they call her. And then behind them are all the red and green sisters that were in the camp with Logain. And they're sitting there to, talk about what happened with Logain's gentling and stuff like that, right? So they bring in Logain, and Logain basically tries to bait the Amyrlin seat into killing him, because now that he can't touch the one power and he doesn't have the voices in his head and stuff like that, he is, gonna go crazy further, right? Further crazier than he would have with the one power. And he feels like disconnected. And of course, part of the gentling is this emotional trauma that happens. And he's experiencing this, and he basically has a moment of weakness where he doesn't want to have to deal with that. And so he tries to bait the Amyrlin seat into, doing killing him, right? But it doesn't end up working for him. So yeah. Other than that, what else happens in this moment here? So, then we get to talk to Moiraine and Liandrin and Alana, and what happens is that they step closer, and then they start talking, and, the Amyrlin seat's like, Liandrin, you were in command when Carini died, you're gonna take the punishment. Liandrin doesn't want to do this, so she turns the whole thing back on Moiraine, and talks about how Moiraine is doing her duty, but of course she's not doing it well because no one knew that, there was these dangers that were coming for them. And then the Amyrlin seat has to, of course, deal with this. And basically, Liandrin gets to go scot-free. I don't think this was the correct way to handle it. Liandrin was still wrong. She still should have been punished, but she's not, because she manages to turn this into Moraine's problem. And I don't know. I feel like it was a little too easy, because we see that the Amyrlin seat doesn't believe her or doesn't want to do this, because she asks Liandrin what the point of it is. But then she still just punishes Moraine, and I don't see what the point of that is. Like, of course, Moraine does things to warrant punishment, but it does feel like unnecessary. Like they went too far with it, without kind of actually punishing the correct people as well. So I don't know. Basically, this episode, just like the previous two episodes, is full of Tower and Aes Sedai politics that are meaningful in the sense that this is a medieval setting, and of course there has to be political machinations, but it doesn't fit with the main story, which is Emond's Fielders going to Tar Valon, and then from Tar Valon going to the Eye of the World to save the world, right? So, I don't know. On one hand, I like it. On the other hand, I think it's spending too much time on things that are not directly relevant right now, right? So, yeah, eventually we get a new scene where Moraine is at a tea shop. She eventually manages to go towards Matt and Rand, where she single-handedly heals him of his dagger problems, which, cool, I guess, but also not the best. Like, I think that they should have really done more with that there. I can't remember how it happens in the books. I think in the books, they go all the way to Faldara, and then they continue to the Eye of the World, and then Matt doesn't get to the Tar Valon Witches until the end of book 2, right? So I feel like there wasn't enough time there. However, this is due to the fact that the actor, didn't want to play Matt anymore. I think the issue was that he thought that there was too much pressure associated with this, and he wasn't ready for it or something like that. I can't remember exactly what the situation was, but there was definitely a reason that was outside of the story's control, outside of the director's control. It was definitely like an actor wanted out, and so they had to close down his storyline as quick as possible. So what ends up happening is that Moraine saves Matt single-handedly, and we get to see this moment where Rand gets to see the weaves that Moraine did, which directly tied to the previous episode to the previous two episodes, mean that, well, Rand can see weaves, which of course leads into the big revelation here later on, right? So I feel like they made that one a little too clear there, like there wasn't any mystery to it, which is kind of crazy because they do try to play up the mystery for as long as possible, so I don't know. I don't think it really worked that well. And then we get to see that Nynaeve shows up, and Moraine kind of talks down to her. She's like, if you claim the title of wisdom, you should certainly start using some, which I thought was pretty badass. I do like it when Moraine is done with Emond's Fielders and tells them, the truth, and she says it as harshly as she can in order to kind of prove a point to them. But she doesn't really do that very often, and whenever she does, I do think it is pretty satisfying. Then we get to see Moraine in a bath, which, like the bath was interesting, but what happens in the bath is like politics again, but they're politics that don't really mean much. It's really just setting up stuff that has already been set up previously. Alana had already said that Liandrin was getting more powerful. Moraine already knew this. Moraine knew that it was weird that people were interacting with Liandrin positively when they wouldn't have before. And then this old lady that's part of the Blue Aja just shows up and she's like, Moraine, this is crazy. People are doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, and they're supporting Liandrin. And it's like, yes, lady, we know. What is the point of this? Why did they even have to have that scene there? So, I don't know. I think that it didn't really work. That scene was super unnecessary. It wasted like 5 minutes of time that didn't need to be wasted. And then we get to see Perrin and Egwene. Perrin has been healed by the Yellow Aja. And Egwene shows Moraine the rings. And this leads to her being taken to the Amyrlin seat, right? So, yeah, Egwene explains Perrin's powers to Moraine, and Moraine immediately shuts her down. She's like, don't tell anyone anything. This is, a secret that we must keep because we don't know what powers the Dragon Reborn will have. However, we already know who the Dragon Reborn is because Rand can see Moraine's weaves. So, there you go. It really isn't that big of a big spoiler because it was super easy to see, and because I think that they're playing up this like any one of them could be the Dragon Reborn, past its, due, right? So I don't know. I didn't really love that there either. And then Moraine is in her chambers. She has a secret entrance into Swan Sanche's house, I guess, her house on the river tier, which I'm guessing is the same house that her father lived in, but she, fixed it up or something. I'm not too sure. That might be a good connection there. I'm not sure. And then, they talk, and of course it turns out that Swan Sanche and Moraine are lovers. This, I guess, was implied in the first 3 books, but never explicitly said. But of course, Robert Jordan doesn't ever explicitly say anything when it comes to sexuality of characters, at least in the first 3 books. Everything is kind of like implied, so I don't know. I didn't know that this was a thing. I thought it was interesting, and it also leads to pretty interesting conversation there. However, again, it's more tower politics. However, there's actually some good exposition here about the legends of the dragon and who the dragon might be. She's like, I found 5, all of them from the same village. One of them is too old. The other 4 are the right age. But how can you discount Nynaeve's power? All of this type of stuff that is meaningful, but I feel like they already ruined it by letting, Rand talk to Moraine about how he can see what she did. So, I don't know, again, so there you go. And then they set up the banishment of Moraine so that Moraine can go on to further adventure with them and Fielders. The next day, Liandrin shows up and Moraine puts a stop to all of the stuff that she's saying. Again, more politics. Moraine immediately is like, stop. I know about the men that you see at North Harbor. I'm going to tell your sisters if you don't stop talking. And they'll basically kill him because the Red Aja hates men. So there you go. I'm guessing this is set up for Liandrin's dark friendness in future seasons. However, I don't know. It does. Moraine isn't the type of person to be so direct. And her being so direct with Liandrin is odd, but also satisfying. And I'm not exactly sure how I feel about the scene, because it does definitely do something meaningful. It sets up, the future. However, I feel like it could have, that scene of politics could have been expanded on if they removed some of the earlier ones that are just like rehashing earlier information that was given to us. So, I don't know. And then Moraine brings Egwene and Nynaeve to the White Tower to meet with the Amyrlin seat. And basically, she talks to them. And then there's this little moment where we see Egwene swell with pride. And then immediately get shot down when they say that Nynaeve is the strongest channeler in 1,000 years. And I love that Nynaeve is like, well, your standards are low, because I think it's pretty funny. However, eventually Nynaeve gets on the Amyrlin seat's nerves, and she talks down to Nynaeve and Egwene. And here they bring up the pattern and how the pattern doesn't care about what you want. It's going to push you and pull you the way that it wants. So every time they do this, I feel like the immersion of the show is destroyed, because this is like them admitting, hey, this is going to happen whether you want it or not. So there's no tension at all, because all of this tension is fabricated. You actually don't have a choice. It's just going to move forward regardless of what you want or not. So don't even bother trying to change it, right? Which is here kind of like the point. And it becomes especially important in the beginning of chapter 7 or episode 7, when they have a discussion about what they should do, what their choice should be. So I really don't like that they, blatantly bring up the pattern, not caring about the individual. I understand what it's supposed to be, and I understand that it's basically supposed to be like when people in real life say, the path God has chosen for me. However, it's also like immersion breaking, because it makes every time that there's a choice, a decision to be made, to not be meaningful, because it's like it was going to happen anyways. There's no point in you doing this, right? So I don't know. And then Moraine prepares and is eventually banished. They are in the council room again, and she gets banished, but she changes the enchantment that is supposed to seal her oath slightly. The Amyrlin seat says that she is supposed to go on the authority of the Amyrlin seat and come back when the Amyrlin seat allows her. But Moraine changes it to Swan Sanche. This is pretty good, because it means that if there's ever another Amyrlin seat before Swan Sanche allows her to return, her oath can be broken, and so she can return to the tower. It also allows her to have control over her comings and goings to an extent, because she just has to have Swan Sanche allow her instead of the Amyrlin seat, and that might make a difference because the Amyrlin seat has to function one way and Swan Sanche can function another when she's in private, right? So I think that was pretty good on their part. Eventually they all ride away, and then Moraine meets up at the Waygate with Loyal and Matt and Perrin and Egwene and Rand and Lan, and they open the Waygate, and they explain the issue. I mean, what it is, why this is happening, what they have to do. Hey, we have to go to the Eye of the World. We're going to have to save the world because the Dark One is strong, or is strengthening. However, I don't know which one of you is the dragon, so I just have to take all of you, right? And eventually, they all go through the Waygate except for Matt. Now, this is where the actor has officially stepped away, and he's going to come back next season, but it's going to be a different actor, right? So Matt is done for this season, which kind of sucks. But also, I guess it kind of sets up what would be his storyline for book 2, which is he goes from Faldara all the way to Tyr and then comes back. And then he's somehow again in Tyr again for the Dragon Reborn, I think. So I think that's pretty interesting. I think it's a pretty good way to get him out of there so that the actor can take his break that he needs, but also allow the story to continue. So I don't hate it, but it kind of sucks that the actor had to go away. So yeah, that's all there is to it. I think that there's some positives to this and quite a few negatives in terms of how they handle the politics and developing the exposition and the world building so that it's relevant for future seasons. Because I understand that this is a difficult thing that has to be done in television. Sometimes you have to allow plotline setup more, or like time for season 2, so like set up for the next season more than you can deal with the proper plotline of the first season. However, I think that it could have done better. They could have done it better, and if they had removed all of the stuff with Karina and Stepan, they could have easily had all of that, plus also have a proper development of the plotline where they could have gone to Camelin, and Faldara wouldn't have felt like a stepping stone instead of like, hey, there's this new place that we have to explore kind of thing. That I think would have been better. So I don't know. Either way, I think it's pretty interesting, and I do like the show. I just feel like sometimes the choices they make are not the best. But either way, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought. And yeah, see you guys later.